YouTube. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, or good night, whichever part of the day it is for you. And once again, thank you for watching. I have a picture here of an armchair activist because this video is going to be mainly about the theme of being an armchair activist. Now, what is an armchair activist? Well, I'm going to keep my words short, even though I do consider myself a writer and a speaker of sorts. You get the idea? You get the picture? You got it? Is that locked in? All right, boom. So, what's all this about? If you haven't watched the other videos about the Jehovah's Witnesses sending out convicted child rapists, and I made the mistake of calling him a pedophile and a molester, there is a difference. This man raped a child. He did not molest. Molest, I think, implies maybe coercion and less physically brutal methods. But correct me if I'm wrong. Whereas a child rapist, he outright raped a child. In fact, it was his 9-year-old daughter. But that's not unusual for Jehovah's Witnesses to send these types to your door because they have organizational policies. So what happened was we caught one of these guys being sent to the public's door on cam. Roman Vargas, he uploaded the original. A bunch of us mirrored it, and it made its way to the news, the local news, and it made this man sit in the hot seat on the news with his head turned to the cam in shame, saying he felt like dirt because now everyone knows in the community and he's having to relive the nightmare. Well, guess what? The young woman that you hurt, the child that you raped, your own stepdaughter, she has to live with this all her life. So I don't think it's fair for you to only serve less than a year out of a 10-year sentence and expect to be able to move on with your life. I mean, you may have paid your legal debt, but that doesn't mean you've finished. There's many different levels of debt. There are mental types of debts that people create, emotional debts, there are financial debts, there are legal debts, there's all kinds of things that you cause to happen as a result of having raped your own stepdaughter. And moving further, Jehovah's Witnesses, like I said, they demand 2 eyewitnesses to even acknowledge that there has been child molestation. Otherwise, they just say, leave it to Jehovah to fix it in the new system, you see? So what I did was, I went ahead and wrote a letter, and it's very simple. I opened up a basic word processor, and I wrote the TV anchorman, because his email was right there on the screen. I mean, so he wants people to email him. He's not trying to hide it. Like some companies, they don't want you to talk to them. They don't want you to call them. So, they give you all these bogus gates to jump through. Well, this is not one of them. News 5 wants to know. And I encourage you to take your story and your experience and email him. His email is right there on the news, and I can give you the email in the description in a bit. But this is what I wrote here, and it's very simple. Feel free to take from this letter and use it to write your own letter. But I said, thank you for broadcasting about the Jehovah's Witnesses and them sending out convicted registered child rapist Wayman Chandler Ivory to the Colorado Springs, El Paso County community. You have only touched the tip of the iceberg with Jehovah's Witnesses. The Watchtower demands child victims of sexual abuse to produce 2 eyewitnesses to the crime, or else they are commanded to leave it to Jehovah's hands to fix. The leaders are directed to the Watchtower Legal Department instead of the police. Superficially, they portray a public image that is law-abiding. However, the reality is much different. Please see resource kit attached. And I've attached the resource kit. This kit includes a copy of the infamous JW murder letter. In it, headquarters is instructing church members in Florida to keep confidential the fact that a murderer is amongst them in the congregation. In fact, the murderer has confessed to multiple counts of murder without law enforcement knowledge. That makes you feel real safe, doesn't it? Sure. Jehovah's Witnesses. Such a nice, safe bunch of people to hang out with. Would love to speak with you more about this and share some of the information that you may be interested in. Are you aware of the Australian Royal Commission's tribunals against Jehovah's Witnesses? I'm sure they are, but you just never know, right? What about the U.S. largest settlement ever awarded, $28 million to one person in clergy child sex abuse, Candace Conti versus Watchtower? I know I've left out a lot of other cases. There are a lot of cases. That Urban Zofkin, he's got a ton of them that need to be known. But, I didn't want to make this introductory email too long. So I closed it up. And I said, attached, please find the resource kit that has been compiled. Mr. Vergara, thank you from the bottom of my heart. Seriously, thank you. If you're watching this, I want to thank you and the staff and the team there at News 5 for taking the time to air this. So many people are looking away. They don't want to touch this. And they're not necessarily Jehovah's Witnesses or ex-Jehovah's Witnesses. It's just a touchy subject, period. A lot of people are not willing to look at this. Why? Because it triggers them. They or someone very close to them has been affected in this way. 9 times out of 10, that's the bottom line. When someone tells me, I don't want to talk to you anymore, or when they block me or whatever, I do wonder if perhaps I might have inadvertently triggered something in them. Attached, please find a resource kit that's been compiled for you. Thank you. Okay, so I've already read that. You have no idea how many thousands of us you are helping. 3 people have unfriended me and told me to take them off their list after sharing your broadcast with them. It takes so much courage and strength to not only face this, but to speak out about it. Cannot thank you enough. So, this issue about the Watchtower sending out convicted and registered child rapists to our doors affects everyone. You, me, our children, our friends, and our neighbors. Please see the resource kit attached. I think I need to take that out. Would you be interested in speaking more about this kind of regard? So I'm going to take that last part out. But this is how easy it is. And this took all of 5 or 10 minutes to write up. And if you want a template, if you're not good at writing, I can provide you with a template. Just make sure you reword it for the most part in your own words, but it can give you the basic structure on how to write these kinds of letters if you're not good. And then you just send it on off. You just send it right on off, and it's not that hard. But yes, I had someone tell me after I sent her a copy of the news report, she responded with, take me off your list. Another one not only unfriended me, but also blocked me. And, it's very interesting, the reactions of people. Cheryl St. Germain has been really, really interesting and great to interact with on the YouTube comments. We talked about People of the Lie, Hope for Healing Human Evil by Scott Peck. I don't have this physical book. I've checked it out of the library for a long time, over and over, and as you can see, I've done a mind map on it. If you have read this book, Cheryl and anyone else, do you remember the case of Charlene? This was a husband and wife couple, but it was a really strange relationship. It was more like Charlene was the mother and I forget her husband's name, but it seemed like he was like a kid. He was like a kid, and it was just a really, well, you really need to check this book out if you have been a Jehovah's Witness or if you are dealing with Jehovah's Witnesses. I think that this is an interesting book to learn about narcissism, what it really is, to learn about psychology, and these relationships that are outlined in this book, the examples and the studies and the patients that he shares here in the book. I have seen these relationships and these things happen in my experiences with the Jehovah's Witnesses. Bobby and his parents, that is a really eye-opening case there. A lot of people don't want to think that parents can be this way, that mothers, when a woman has a baby, they think that she automatically will have the mothering instinct, right? And that's not true. Just because a woman has a baby doesn't mean she automatically loves it, or doesn't mean she wants it or wants to take care of it or is able to take care of it. So check out that book, People of the Lie. It really pinpoints the gist of it. The gist of the whole book is right here. It is evil people's nature to avoid the light, self-examination. And this definition of evil is a clinical definition of evil. It is not a moral definition. It is not a religious definition of evil. So it will redefine what you might see as evil after you read this. Now, don't get me wrong. It's not trying to say it doesn't exist or that when people do bad things, that's not bad. That is not what it is saying at all. But it will give you the definition of evil in the moral sense, and then it will give you the definition of evil in a clinical sense, where you're not judging that person, but that person is clinically evil. So this is his book, and this is his information that he outlines. He gives some case studies. Hartley, Roger and his parents, that's another crazy one right there. These are some crazy, crazy stories. So I invite you to tell me what you think about this book. If you've read it and if you're familiar with the cases in it, let me know what you think. If you have any questions about what I see about it and what I think about it, also please let me know and feel free to ask. However, I want to talk about another book here. I know I like talking about books, but a lot of people are kicked out of the Watchtower cult and they don't have any family. They don't have a lot of friends, maybe. Most of their friends were Jehovah's Witnesses. So sometimes people reach for booze, they reach for drugs or other things like that. But me over here, I like to reach for books, and I don't like to reach for just any old book. This one's called Boundaries in Relationships: Knowing, Protecting, and Enjoying the Self by Charles L. Whitfield. Highly recommended for all people, of course, but especially ex-Jehovah's Witnesses. And, well, if you're brave enough, if you're one of those brave Jehovah's Witnesses, go ahead. I mean, this doesn't have anything about Jehovah's Witnesses in it at all, but boundaries, scary, scary topic. If you're one of those people that's been to counseling and therapy and read all of these wonderful books, well, then you know what I'm talking about, right? It's some scary stuff. Yeah, what are boundaries? First time I read this book, by the way, I was like, what the heck? I don't understand a thing in this book. Boundaries are non-existent in the Jehovah's Witness organization. There are no boundaries. It's one. Everyone's the same, and don't you dare deviate. And true to Jehovah's Witness form here, you see that highlighting? I'm so proud of myself. I took the Jehovah's Witness highlighting thing, and I just took it to all these worldly books. Ain't nothing but worldly books, wasting your time on worldly knowledge, honey, when you need to be reading Jehovah's Bible, honey. All right, check it out. What's a boundary? Can you see that? A boundary marks the place where my reality ends and where yours begins. I know it's blurry, but bear with me. Our inner life consists of our feelings, thoughts, needs, and wants. You got that? Your feelings, your thoughts, your needs, and your wants, as well as your values, your hopes, and your dreams, what's important to you and what's meaningful to you. These are all vital aspects of who we are. They comprise some major aspect of what Whitfield calls our true self. No one can take that from us. Now, how does that sit with what you know about Jehovah's Witnesses and the way things need to go within their group? Right? So if you're Jehovah's Witness, you better start shutting off this video right now because it's about to get real scary. Yeah, and if you're one of those XJWs that doesn't want to self-examine and ain't ready for this, you might want to shut this video off right about now too. Because it's going to get real scary, honey. Bam! You just getting all kinds of people this fellowship, honey. You are turning people away from Jehovah with this demonic book, honey. This is nothing but psychological jibber-jabber, honey. This is psychological jibber-jabber. Submitting to others rather than affirming our own reality is the heart of active codependence. No, honey, that's worshiping Jehovah. That is worshiping Jehovah, boo. We give up our own inner world in order to be accepted by others, honey. Such codependence amounts to a self-betrayal. No, honey, that is being obedient to the Bible and to Jehovah, honey. Who are you to call that codependence? You submit to the governing body, honey. You submit to Jehovah. And the wife needs to submit to the head, just as the head submits to the heavenly head. And he, yeah. So, honey, I don't know, honey. I don't like this. This is worldly wisdom, honey. We can affirm our inner world by granting others the right to have their feelings, thoughts, and needs, viewpoints which might be different from our own. No, honey, this is the only truth we have, honey. This is the only truth. This is on God's earth, honey. Jehovah has given our governing body the truth, honey. You don't have the right to no other feelings other than if it's the truth feelings, okay? All right, otherwise you're going to be destroyed again, honey. You know the deal, honey. They provide a foundation for sound, healthy intimacy. What? No, honey, this is not Jehovah-like. A relationship requires two people who are relating to each other, lacking awareness of our inner world. We remain enmeshed, not intimate. Oh, this is too much, honey. Let's close this book right now. Bam. Out of here. Out of here. Where's Jehovah? I gotta say Jehovah, Jehovah, Jehovah. Jehovah, Jehovah, Jehovah. All right, you know what, Sister Smith, since you did that, let me get something for you. I got something for you, Sister Smith. Look at this right here. These are my mind maps. Psychotherapy. Bam. I'm going to pull something out. Go ahead. You give me your best shot. I got my Bible, honey. I got my silver Bible. I got my green Bible, my purple Bible, and my blue Bible, honey. Don't mess with me. Blue? I didn't know Jehovah's Witnesses had blue Bibles at one point. Sure did, honey. Okay, check this out. Mind over mood. Change how you feel by changing the way you think. Here we go. Another one of them worldly books again. Well, check it out. Look, at least I highlighted some of it, right? You see? Look at that. What you should have been highlighting is the watchtower. You know the deal. I don't know why you playing games, honey. Why don't you get back to the Kingdom Hall before the end comes while you still got a chance? Because Armageddon is right around the corner, honey. And then you can stand next to one of them carts like a good boy. So, what I did was I mind mapped this book, Mind Over Mood. Never mind the crayon colors. I was out of my highlighters that day. And, I had to do what I had to do. So I grabbed this kid's box of crayons and he helped me color it, as you can see. So CBT, what's CBT? Cognitive Behavior Therapy. It's 7 steps. Anytime you're feeling negative, down, sad, distressed, angry, depressed, anxiety, any kind of negative feeling, you do 7 steps. First, number 1, you describe the situation: who, where, what, when. Where are you? I'm sitting at home on a Sunday evening. Okay, I'll just make an example right quick. Mood rating: how are you feeling? 1-word description: angry, sad, tired, exhausted, bored. 1-word descriptions, and then you rate it from 0 to 100. 0 being completely 0, 100 being the most intense you can ever experience. So, for example, let's say you were sad and you were rating your sadness. You might feel a 60% or 70%, or you might only feel 20% sad. Okay, so you rate that. Then number 3, you look at the automatic thoughts. What images are going through your mind just before you felt this way? What does this say about me? What does it say about my life? What does it say about my future? What does it say about the world in general? Uh-oh, Jehovah's Witnesses.
What you mean, what does it say about the world in general? We all know there's nothing but wicked worldly people. So that's what it says about the world, honey.
Okay. So next is, what am I afraid will happen? What is the worst thing that could happen? What does this mean about how you or the other person thinks or feels about me? What does it mean about other people in general?
What you mean? If they ain't part of Jehovah's organization, then they are not to be trusted. They're liable to do anything, honey. They're liable to rape you, break in your house, turn you away from Jehovah. Everything, honey.
Next, do I have any images, memories in this situation? Uh-oh.
Well, we're going to move on from that, honey, because we don't want a lot of trouble for Jehovah's organization, honey.
All right, number 4. And these questions, you don't have to ask yourself every one of these questions. They're just examples, just ideas to help you sort things. Next, you can rate the hotness of each thought and imagine the thoughts being live electrical wires. Which one has the most charge? So once you put down your automatic thoughts, then from there you're going to determine which one has the most emotional charge. That one is called your hot thought. You're going to rate the amount of charge. Okay? So if you don't know how to determine your hot thought, you go through those thoughts and you rate each one of them. You base on how much emotion is behind each thought. Next, you get evidence for supporting that thought, and then you find evidence that does not support the thought. So, for example, let's say one of your automatic thoughts was, every time I get in a car, I end up being cut off in the road. Maybe there's bad drivers, okay? And for some reason, there's that cognitive distortion that for some reason, whenever you're on the road, other drivers are just terrible drivers. So then, you find the evidence. If you say, okay, I'm going to find evidence that supports it. Well, just yesterday, somebody cut me off on my way to work. And last week, someone did it again. And then 2 days before that, and you just list all the ones that support that particular hot thought. Next, you find evidence that does not support it. Well, today was pretty cool. I wasn't cut off in the road and no one bothered me. What about 4 days ago? Yeah, that was a pretty good day too. And then you start realizing, okay, there's all these other days where this particular statement didn't hold true, or these times it wasn't true, and you list all of those, and then you take them all and you combine them. You don't eliminate any of it. There's room for all of it, but what you do is you create alternative balanced thoughts, and you combine the evidence sentences with the preface even though, and you combine them with those sentences that do not support that thought, and create an alternative balanced thought. So you can say, for example, even though 2 days ago Someone cut me off in traffic on my way to work. Today, I've had a really great day driving, and the drivers were great on the road. Even though 2 weeks ago, I experienced another bad driver cutting me off on my way to the store, for example. 5 days ago, someone actually let me in a lane rather quickly and easily. They let me switch lanes. Maybe I was getting off of a ramp somewhere and turning to go onto another freeway. By the way, these Los Angeles can't even talk. Los Angeles freeways can be hell to deal with as a driver. Good gosh. Especially if you're going downtown LA. But anyway. Next, the last step. You re-rate your mood. Now, this isn't going to necessarily make your sadness or your anger just disappear like instantly. But 9 times out of 10, it will chip away at it just a bit. Enough for you to experience a little bit more clarity and relief from those negative moods and be able to manage your moods and ultimately manage how you think. So this pattern here, by the way, is a positive type of pattern that puts the power and control into the individual, into your hands, for your own mental control. Cults, they pervert this process and ultimately take your control and your power away from you. Let's see, I have a couple more mind maps. I want to tell you a couple more things. Oh, the cool thing I really like about this here, about CBT, which is what I've just shown you, is that the principles at the root of CBT, it's a paradox. Your weaknesses can become your strengths. Your shortcomings can become your greatest assets. A lot of times, we as ex-Jehovah's Witnesses, we are so angry about some of the crazy bad stuff that we've experienced with Jehovah's Witnesses, but we can take that and transform it into gold. We can take that pain, we can take that anger and that sadness, we can take that loneliness and all of that, and we can do something really great with that on an individual level and certainly on a collective level. So if you're into bibliotherapy, it's basically reading therapy and psychotherapy books, self-help books, and things like that. They can actually help increase the speed of your recovery. They're not a substitute for one-on-one counseling and group counseling where you have support. However, in conjunction with that, you can definitely experience some really great positive benefits, I think. CBT, it basically helps people to improve rapidly and continue to remain undepressed for several years. It is one of the more effective treatments in things like eating disorders. And a lot of people feel that it's better than drug therapy or other types of psychotherapy. Another one that I feel is helpful is EMDR, eye movement desensitization reprocessing. And this is from a book called Getting Past Your Past. And this is by Francine Shapiro, PhD. And EMDR basically taps directly into your unconscious, and it allows learning to take place. It allows you to take the charge off of trauma and experiences that you might have experienced. Some of us have had a lot more extreme trauma than others, but this includes, and by the way, we all have traumas, even if you've had a great childhood as far as your parents and your community is concerned. You still may have had a trauma. Maybe some people fall off of a bicycle when they're 4 years old, and that, maybe they break their leg and then they have to have all these medical procedures, and it can be very traumatic for a kid, and maybe that person somehow is still affected by that. So what this can do, it can help bring significant change in a short period of time. PTSD. It is good for PTSD because PTSD affects the overall personality of the person. And the average human being, your personality traits are based on a group of memory networks from your past experiences, and these cause certain feelings and behaviors. So a lot of what we do is based on memory networks of past experiences, and it makes sense. The brain wants to make sure not to repeat the patterns, so what it does on a subconscious basis to free you up to live your life so you don't have to worry about a zillion different things, what it does, it bases your feelings and your behaviors and predispositions on that group of memory networks. So if you've had some really abusive experiences in your home life or within the Jehovah's Witnesses, there's a lot that you may be able to benefit by using EMDR therapy. It is a bilateral stimulation of the brain, and basically they wave their finger back and forth in front of your eyes while your eyes move back and forth. And what this does, it stimulates both sides of the brain. It's actually a very simple method, but it's very potent and powerful. There was something I wanted to show you. Maybe it was on another mind map. One of the great things that this kind of therapy does, it eliminates your symptoms without homework. A lot of the other therapies, they require you to go and do all of this homework, but you don't have to really do any kind of homework with this type of therapy. Also, it's very quick compared to the other ones where just talk therapy. You could end up in therapy for 20, 30 years and not really get anywhere. This one here, it says here, 84 to 100% of single trauma can be processed within 3 90-minute sessions. Now, I would not recommend having them back to back or all at once. Give yourself some time to integrate and process the EMDR session because it will bring up a lot of memories to the surface that are related to whatever event. You might be surprised as to what other memories might come up, and I'm not gonna, they might not necessarily all be traumatic and hellish. They might just be, for example, I had a memory of when I was in surgery, and when they put the anesthesia cap on me, I wasn't knocked out right away, but my body froze and I lost complete control of my body. I couldn't move, and I had the most sharpest pain in my heart, in my chest area where my heart is, and I thought I was having a heart attack. And I tried to scream and I tried to get up off the table, but they were holding me down and putting that anesthesia mask on me, and I'm here in pain and I'm trying to tell them I'm having a heart attack. It was just crazy. But I was knocked out. I had the surgeries, and I recovered and everything was great, and I had just blocked it out of my mind. And after doing EMDR, that came to the surface that was actually very traumatic, and that was still affecting me, and it needed to be worked out in EMDR therapy. So you might have other things like that. Maybe you've been in a car accident. Those things can be traumatic. Or maybe you've had an injury. Maybe you're a runner and you had some kind of leg injury. All kinds of things can happen, And CBT and EMDR can be really great ways to work through that. And no one is immune. We all have unconscious, unprocessed memories. Some people maybe were bullied in school. That's very traumatic. Maybe you were picked on as a kid in grade school, and it was just silly kids doing that, but it was really painful at the time. Maybe they picked on you for some kind of haircut or the way your shoes might have looked or whatever. So another cool thing about EMDR is that you don't have to EMDR every single event, because the way our brain stores events and memories, you have something called touchstone memories. And these are the earliest remembered events that cause problems. And these are connected to other events that cause problems. So when you process a touchstone memory, you're processing maybe 2, 3, 10, 20 other, maybe even more, depending on how you've stored your memory. But you're not just hitting one. You don't have to do every single one. You can hit several and then have most of them, if all, completely processed and healed. And what does that mean? Basically, it means that the emotional charge has been taken away. The emotional charge of the event has been taken away to now you're just remembering it like a narrative, and you're able to talk about it, and you're able to have more adaptive thoughts and feelings. It says here, EMDR, it focuses on stored memories. It identifies past experiences that contribute to current problem. It directly processes and allows your brain to store them with more adaptive thoughts and feelings, and simultaneously generating insights and desensitizing your emotions and taking the emotional charge off. Does that make sense? So, and it says here, one of the interesting things, generally 10 to 20 unprocessed memories are responsible for most of the pain and suffering in our lives. Now that comes from Francine Shapiro. I do not know what she bases that on, probably on her, probably on her case histories. Now, some of us obviously are not going to have just 10 or 20, right? So there are more than 100 different kinds of psychotherapies out there, and finding the right one requires a measure of luck and research. So hopefully I've given you a little bit of research and saved you a little bit of time, or at least giving you something to work with if you're interested in getting counseling and knowing more about things like this. By the way, omega-3 fatty acids, fish oil caps, they really, really help with moods, especially if you're stressed. I know that people that have had heart attacks and that have heart issues take them, but they're also very good for your mood. Okay, let's see. We've got bilateral stimulation. Oh yeah, this is still from EMDR. There's 3 different types of modes that they use. One is alternating eye movements. The other one is tactile stimulation called tapping, where they tap on certain parts of your body, or you tap on your body. You have auditory stimulation, or binaural beats. And the difference between EMDR and CBT, or what they call talk therapy, is that the CBT, it accesses the cortical brain, which is the seat of logic and thought. So you're using logic and reason. And in EMDR bypasses that. You don't really have to talk much about the events, you just have to recall them. And it has access to the reptilian and mammalian brains. And what it does, it helps affect and change in areas that talk therapy can't, inaccessible to verbal therapy. So if you're using both of these together, more power to you. And I think there are a great combination using CBT and EMDR. Let's see. Mind is magician, can make painful memories vanish. Repression, forgetfulness. Okay, I think this was some of the applications that were being used in the book. Again, CBT, logic. Okay, those were some connections, some correspondences that I made with some of the information here. So that's it. There we have it. So if you're interested, take a look at this book, Boundaries, Charles L. Whitfield. This one too. Mind over mood. Change how you feel by changing the way you think. Dennis Greenberger, PhD. And enjoy yourself. Thanks for watching. Let me know what you think about the information provided here today in this video. Let me know what you think about the people that blocked me, that unfriended me and blocked me. Do you think that they were angry? Do you think that they were justified in unfriending me and blocking me? And the person that did that, that person used to be an ex-JW. Excuse me. I got something in my throat. That person used to be an ex-JW. And I believe that they may have gone back to be with family. And the other person was never a Jehovah's Witness. But they are friends with someone who is a Jehovah's Witness and who took part in abusing their own child. So it's not just Jehovah's Witnesses looking away, folks. It's a lot of people that just would rather not care or not be bothered for various reasons. But that's okay, because we can still talk about it. We can still write about it. And it's just as easy and as simple as this.
You're gonna die at Armageddon. You are gonna die at Armageddon. All of y'all gonna die at Armageddon. Don't you dare write them letters. You better not ever write no letters to nobody ever again. You're gonna die at Armageddon with gusto. Jehovah's gonna strike you down, honey. He's gonna strike you down, honey. Out, Jehovah.